Greetings. My name is Darcy Neill, and I am a board member of the Temple of Understanding. We have a panel today of experts. I am a non-expert, but a committed and hopefully fast learner. And what we're going to talk about today is regenerative farming, the issues that face people around the world. We have great participants today from all around the world. But also we want to talk about the activism part, right? We have the knowledge, we have the technology, but how do we create that spark? How do I get an audience? How do I get people involved and engaged so that even someone, who's a native New Yorker like me understands that there are things and choices I can make that would be different. I am, as I mentioned, a native New Yorker, but I've spent many of the last 50 years working in Asia and Africa and the Middle East. I worked as a young woman, headed to Africa as a Peace Corps volunteer in the 60s. And then I've worked intermittently with Peace Corps over the years, going back and forth, and also did some work with the U.S. Forest Service. So conscious of or aware of some of the things that we're dealing with. But I think that my approach today and into the conversation that we have with our panel is that awareness precedes meaningful choice. And so our job today is to make sure that our audience, which has a range, some people with some knowledge, some people with significant knowledge about the issues and the realities on the ground, but also how does that connect to me? What can I do? And how can I be effective and proactive? So our speakers, let me introduce them and let them introduce themselves. They'll do a far better job than I. And so let me first go to Kathryn Manga, who's joining us from the Philippines. Good morning, no, good evening for you, I think.
Yes, it's evening here in Manila. But good morning, everyone in the United States. My name is Kathryn Manga. I work with Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, or KMP, the Peasant Movement of the Philippines. I have been an activist for actually more than 20 years now, since I was in college. I started as a theater and a community development worker. I decided to join the organizations advocating for peasants' rights, as I have been also been involved in many peasants' campaign in the past. Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you. And our extra speaker, our wonderful Daniel Wanjama, who's joining us from Kenya. Hello, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Darcy. My name's Daniel Wanjama. I am the founder and coordinator of Seed Savers Network. And my job is literally building a movement here. We are building a movement of seed saving farmers and people who enable every other small farmer access seeds and regain control of our food. I was born and raised in the rural Kenya, and in a situation of a small-scale kind of farming, people making a living. And I was like every day of school, you have to come back and do some activities in the farm so that you have to grow your own food and eat it. And therefore, I'm very passionate about farming and making sure that everyone is able to access food. And part of the challenge that I have always known is that people are not able to access the right seeds. And that's why they are not able to grow their own food. And therefore, we are building a movement for the whole country. I've been doing this for the last 10 years. And we are building a movement to cover the whole country so that everyone can be able to access seeds and can be able to feed themselves. And I'm very happy to be in this conversation. And I'm happy that you are all able to follow on what we do. And I'm happy that you have interest in what we do. Thank you very much.
Okay. And finally, Adelita, who's joining us from Mexico. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sí, muy buenos días. Es un placer para mí estar con ustedes y ser parte de este importante evento. Yo soy Adelita San Vicente Tello, soy mexicana y yo he trabajado en los últimos años en la Fundación Semillas de Vida, que trabaja por una alimentación sana desde las semillas, y hemos luchado por mantener las semillas en manos de los campesinos. Somos parte también de la campaña Sin maíz no hay país.
So maybe we could start so that we all understand the basics, but how would you summarize the primary problem or challenges that you face each in your own country, and with, you know, they're slightly different priorities, perhaps the realities on the ground may be a little different. But Kathryn, how would you summarize those issues or those primary challenges, the big ones?
For the Filipino farmers, the biggest challenge actually is landlessness. Almost 75% of the Filipino people live in the rural areas and are farmers. But most of them, we say that 9 out of 10 Filipino farmers are actually landless. They do not own the land they till. That's how we define when we say there are peasants in our communities. That's how we define it. So they do not own the land they till. That is the number one problem for the Filipino peasants. The second problem is that our farmers and our peasants, they assert their right to till, because without their land, without that part of their life giving them livelihood, they cannot eat, and they cannot send their family or their children to school. So the second problem is that many of the people in the rural areas are in poverty and in hunger. And as they assert their right to till the land, they are being harassed and repressed, politically repressed. So in the Philippines right now, my organization, Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, we have already counted up to 333 peasants killed under the Duterte regime. And there have been 25 massacres already. All of this happened in the rural areas within the farmer sector, as the farmers are continuously asserting their right to land and to till. They are being harassed. So those two are the main challenges that we are facing right now.
Okay. All right. And how about for you, Daniel, in Kenya? What would be the primary, and they may overlap, but they may be quite distinct.
Yeah, because our challenges to do with farming here, especially for small-scale farmers, have to do with seeds access. Basically stemming from the government policies, seed laws and regulations that prohibit farmers from saving their own seeds, or prohibit farmers from sharing seeds, or criminalize farmers' variety in the sense that they cannot be sold legally. And that creates a situation where, because farmers' seeds are basically illegal, there's a situation where the seeds that are sold legally here in Kenya are basically imported, 95% of the seeds. And farmers or small-scale farmers in Kenya, more than 80% of the farmers do not want, or they don't require those seeds that are in the formal system. They require seeds that are their own, because they are basically seeds for crops that are important for food security, and the companies that are selling the seeds are not interested in those crops because they are localized. They are, for instance, seeds for sweet potatoes, yam, cassava, even local beans. you don't find them in the market. So they are basically illegal in some sense because they are not registered and they are not certified. A situation that creates a shortage, and the gap that is created by lack of these seeds cannot be occupied or cannot be filled by the farmers themselves because they cannot be able to meet the regulations or the standards that are required by regulations. And farmers they struggle with the seeds, and also the seeds that are imported, especially for the few crops, like tomatoes, sometimes maize. They are too expensive. They are not affordable by the small-scale farmers. And when small-scale farmers buy these seeds, they are required also to buy other agricultural inputs, such as fertilizers and insecticides, pesticides, all these chemicals that add to the cost of farming. And given that small-scale farming in nature is subsistence, they are not able to make money that is supposed to compensate for what they have spent in buying these seeds. Therefore, our main challenge is seed access and a situation that policies criminalize the traditional way of sharing seeds, exchanging seeds, and even selling seeds to one another as small farmers. And that is what has sustained our farming system for many years. But now, because of policies that want to support agricultural businesses, then that somehow creates the seed shortage that we have.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, Adelita, can you tell us a little bit about the situation in Mexico, and how would you describe the challenges of the food system in your country?
México tiene dos modelos de agricultura. Una agricultura industrial en la parte norte del país y una agricultura de pequeña escala campesina que está más en el sur, pero está por todo el país. Y esta agricultura es muy importante porque es una agricultura que produce, se calcula, el 40% de los alimentos que consumimos. La agricultura industrial del norte está destinada más bien a las exportaciones. Entonces, estos dos modelos de agricultura han tenido un conflicto y se ha beneficiado mucho más al modelo de exportación, sacrificando al modelo campesino. Y al mismo tiempo, con la firma del Tratado de Libre Comercio, importamos la mayor parte de los alimentos básicos. Estamos importando alrededor del 40% del maíz que consumimos, 80% del arroz. Entonces, esto nos coloca en una grave dependencia alimentaria. Y este modelo de alimentación, este modelo impuesto por el Tratado de Libre Comercio, nos ha llevado a una crisis alimentaria. México tiene una tasa de obesidad de cerca del 80% y al mismo tiempo una severa desnutrición de alrededor 20% de la población. Y esto con la pandemia del COVID se ha visto como ha sido muy grave con la pandemia del COVID, porque pues el COVID en los cuerpos que tienen obesidad o los siguientes, la diabetes, pues hay mayor morbilidad. Al mismo tiempo, tenemos esta agricultura campesina de pequeña escala que, a pesar del Tratado de Libre Comercio, se mantiene, y esto es una gran esperanza.
The title of the panel has to do with regenerative farming, right? And generational. And I'm wondering about the generations of people. What are the issues for the next generation in your countries? Kathryn?
Yeah, okay. Well, it is mainly the fact that the parents do not own the land, so the children does not also own the land.
Right.
And the second one is that many of the Filipino farmers are actually rice farmers. And with the recent implementation of the rice liberalization law, where more imported rice products are coming in from different countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and India, many of our rice farmers have actually been deep in debt in the past years. And that's the challenge for the young farmers, because the only thing that the parents will leave to them are the debts. So they are not really that excited to be part of the farming sector. But for most of them, they do not have any other choice. Some of them, they go as agricultural workers. They work in the farms of other people. Some of them go to the city as laborers or as odd jobbers. So for the young farmers, it is really a challenge to keep that enthusiasm to still be part of the peasant, the farmer sector, and still be part of that generation that feeds the country and feeds their community.
Interesting. And how about for you, Daniel? What are the prospects, or what do you see happening with young Kenyans?
Thank you, Darcy. Young Kenyans, young people in Kenya are not interested in farming. They are avoiding farming, and they would rather move to the cities and idle around, even when they don't have jobs, than continue farming. And I believe this is happening because they have a certain mindset that farming is expensive and it does not pay. Because, for example, for the young people who have gone through the education system and they have been trained in agriculture, a lot of them really believe that for any farming to happen, you have to buy everything that is needed, which include fertilizer every time, which is very expensive. Kenya does not make any fertilizer. You have to import at very high cost. And then you have to use certified or hybrid seeds, which are also very expensive. You have to use fungicides, you have to use pesticides, herbicides, which are all very costly. And whenever young people try to do farming, they go to it in this kind of mindset. And when they buy everything and then they sell whatever they have produced, let's say in 1 acre, they realize what they have gained is negative, because whatever they have used cannot compensate for what they have gained. And this make a lot of young people avoid farming. And I also imagine it could be a systematic thing to free the land. I could imagine people in like policymakers supported by industrial people who have invested in this agro-input industry. They believe there could be better returns to their businesses, or there could be more market if the land that is cultivated by small-scale farmers could be freed, and it is utilized by maybe an investor or large-scale companies who could be buying whatever they are selling and they use it. So therefore, making agriculture unsustainable and making it look like it cannot pay, it could also by design, according to me, because even the curriculum that is taken, that young people are taken through in agriculture, the kind of extension system done by the Ministry of Agriculture staff, and also the whole lot of marketing and campaign done by people about green revolution is all designed to show that you cannot produce unless you pay or you buy a lot of things. And of course, if you buy a lot of things in a small scale kind of setting, you'll be running on a negative. A lot of time you'll not make any money. And if you can't make money, you cannot sustain your life in the rural. You have to leave that land. When you leave it, then someone else can use it and perhaps join so many pieces of land and make one big farm that a company could utilize. So therefore, there's a process of also, I could just draw parallel with the Philippines, that eventually people want to be driven out of their lands.
Right. So Adelita, could you describe what are the challenges that are facing young farmers in Mexico when they look at their future?
Pues los campesinos jóvenes pues enfrentan muchos problemas. Por una parte, pues la oferta que existe en México de migrar hacia Estados Unidos o hacia el norte del país. Esto es muy grave porque pues ha dejado los territorios sin hombres. Realmente en los territorios se ha quedado la gente, mujeres y la gente mayor. Entonces esto ha propiciado la violencia. El grave problema de la violencia en México, del narcotráfico, los territorios han sido tomados por los grupos de narcotraficantes, y los jóvenes o ven como opción o irse a trabajar del otro lado, como decimos aquí, a Estados Unidos, o bien incorporarse a las filas del narcotráfico. Entonces, es un problema muy grave, muy complejo, porque pues es cotidiana la violencia en México. Entonces, este abandono del campo mexicano ha significado que el narcotráfico se apropie de los territorios, y esto es muy, muy grave. Incluso, bueno, la siembra de cultivos ilegales, la siembra de opio, de marihuana, ha crecido mucho en los territorios.
So where do you see signs of hope? Or what is it that refuels your commitment? Because I think it's going to be a long challenge. So how do you refuel or regenerate your own commitment and confidence that this is important work? Kathryn?
For us, whenever we go to the farm, whenever we visit the communities, and whenever we have this dialogue and conversation with our farmers, the challenges that they have, the excitement that we feel when they say that they have suggestions on how we can do things better, I think that is enough for activists like me in the Philippines to still do more and be inspired more with the work that our farmers do.
Right. Because that has to be regenerated, not just the farming, but also the spirit, right?
Yes, actually, and if I may add, I would want to say that our farmers, they are not just growing plants or vegetables or growing something from the earth, but working with them, they're actually growing us as human beings. So we are very thankful for them.
That's a great perception to take. Yeah. And how about for you, Daniel? What is the drive or the spirit or the spark that keeps you active and draws other people to the movement?
Thank you. Our hope is lies in the consumers, because our population is moving also a bit the urban areas. So there are some people who want to eat food that they have not grown already. And we also have a situation where we have two systems of food production. If you are growing food for export, there is very stringent regulations to make sure that the food is safe.
Right.
But when you are growing food for the local market, there is almost free for all. You can do whatever you want. You might spray today with dangerous chemical and be allowed to go to the market tomorrow. So there is no regulations. There is an increasing awareness among people because we have now lifestyle diseases rising, increasing, almost overtaking infectious diseases, diabetes, or even I would also mention cancer because cancer is also increasing a lot. And even doctors are more and more recommending people to eat local food, not processed. So I believe this push from the consumer side will eventually be very useful in what we do. People will be looking for local food more, and no one wants to die of eating chemicals and cancer and all that.
Right.
And the lack of this enforcement in the local food system, enforcement of food safety.
Right.
It means that we are eventually going to have a lot of allies all over,
Right.
Who will join to say our food has to be produced this way, and also we need diversity on the table. And therefore, I think we have our movement has a future.
Right. You said two things, Daniel, that I think bring us back to the beginning, and one is awareness. And I talked about that before, because if I don't know, then I'm not in a position to make a choice or a meaningful choice. So awareness precedes meaningful choice. So we'll see more of that. And the other thing is the importance of the consumer, because everybody in our audience, right, whether they're technically connected to the issue or just aware or concerned or whatever brings them to the issue or to our session today, we are all consumers. And so I can say for me, I know I'm only one, but each one reach one, right? Who can I talk to? Who can I bring with me to the farmer's market next week? You know, how is it that we can do that, you know, at all times? So I really appreciate that possibility. So Adelita, tell us, in Mexico, when you think about the organic farming movement, what gives you hope? Where is the hope for you in Mexico?
Pues bueno, yo creo que es la esperanza que tenemos que mantener, que siempre tenemos que mantener, y pues es la esperanza frente a la situación que hoy vivimos, a esta pandemia que pues ha sido un parteaguas para la humanidad, y que en la agricultura campesina que tenemos en México, pues vemos muchas posibilidades de realmente tener una alimentación sana, otra forma de vida, de convivencia con la naturaleza. Y pues para mí esa es la esperanza que debemos mantener, más hoy frente a este grave problema que vivimos, no solo de la pandemia, incluso del cambio climático, ¿no? Yo creo que a mí personalmente lo que más me influye es esto lo que le han llamado el México profundo, el México indígena, nuestros ancestros, nuestros antepasados, que tienen una forma muy diferente de relación con la naturaleza y entre las personas. Y este es una guía espiritual muy importante, un compromiso muy importante, porque uno puede ir al campo en México, a los pequeños pueblos en México, y siempre hay esta familiaridad, esta forma de celebrar, esta espiritualidad que le llamamos aquí, esa cosmovisión de respeto hacia la naturaleza, hacia nuestros antepasados, hacia las propias relaciones. Y para mí eso es lo que me guía, y el maíz en alguna manera representa todo eso aquí en México.
Thank you, Adelita, and actually all of our panelists for your input and insights about regenerative farming and the importance of activism in the Philippines, Kenya, and Mexico, and especially the spiritual connection that each of us has to the sacred earth. While we may not yet have all the answers, I know we now have better questions to take to our government, to business, and to our communities. And the Temple of Understanding and our audience appreciate your contributions today. Thank you.